Raman Kapur, a member of the advisory board of the Indo-American Arts Council, IAAC. I am pleased to welcome you to the 6th IAAC Literary Festival, which runs from December 4th to the 13th. IAAC brings you authors, thought leaders, storytellers from around the world, the best of the best. Many of these stories originate from the Indian subcontinent. And today we celebrate these voices that have been shaped by the Indian ethos and experience. In these unprecedented times, our collective shared experiences, voiced through literature, reshape our perspectives and uplift us. We have an incredibly special book launch today. Mr. Raja Rajamannar, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer and President Healthcare Business for Mastercard, is premiering his book, Quantum Marketing, Mastering the New Marketing Mindset for Tomorrow's Consumers. Moderating the conversation with Raja will be Mr. Rakesh Kaul. Let me welcome Rakesh into the studio first.
Hello, Raman. Greetings.
Yeah, welcome, Rakesh. Yeah, it's great to have you here. Rakesh is the rare combination of a business leader and a novelist. He is a business leader who has managed over 400 global consumer brands, from health to finance, merchandise, nonprofits, as CEO and as chairman. He served as senior advisor to the Carlyle Group for their consumer and retail portfolio. He's also, as I mentioned earlier, an author, including his bestseller, The Last Queen of Kashmir, published by HarperCollins, and his most recent novel, Dawn, The Warrior Princess of Kashmir. If you have not read it, I urge you to get a copy right away. Rakesh is also vice chairman of IAAC. Rakesh, welcome once again. And now let me welcome the star of the program, Raja Rajamannar. I'm sure you've all seen his book, but if you haven't, Raja Rajamannar is a globally recognized marketer, an innovative thinker, a transformational business leader, and a highly successful brand builder. Starting as a marketing trainee, he worked his way up through different companies, industries, geographies around the world to become the chief marketing and communications officer of Mastercard, which he's built into an iconic brand and that is now rated amongst the top 12 brands globally. He was named Global Marketer of the Year by the World Federation of Advertisers, as Forbes' top 5 world's most influential CMOs, Business Insider's 25 most innovative CMOs in the world, Adweek's 10 most tech-savvy CMOs, and these are really only a few of the many honors and awards, including being inducted into the CMO Club Hall of Fame. So with that, I turn this over, Rakesh, to you to moderate, to start the conversation.
Ramanji, thank you very much for having me and really appreciate the opportunity. And it's always a pleasure seeing you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome, Raja. Yeah. Go ahead, Rakesh.
So, Raman, thank you. It would be remiss of me not to say a few words about you to the audience. You yourself have had a very distinguished career with senior management positions at Sharing Plow Corporation, including serving as president of Sharing Plow's global animal health business before serving as president of Warwick Pharmaceuticals and president worldwide, human generics, and Sharing Plow's U.S. pharmaceutical legacy products business. You're currently heading a pharmaceutical business right now as an entrepreneur. You are a leader in the nonprofit world. And I guess, Raman, it needed the two of us when we saw Raja's incredible background in marketing and health.
It's frozen.
Benefit the most from his incredible background. And so let me start off. Here is this incredible book that we have, and quantum marketing. And Raja, let me ask you, what led you to this provocative title, quantum marketing, implying that everything that came before it was classical marketing?
So, in fact, I think, Rakesh, this has been quite a journey for me. Having been in the field of marketing and business for almost the last 37 years, I started really trying to conceptualize how marketing was evolving over the ages. And what struck me was, if you look at the world of physics, now, the world of physics, what are we trying to do? You typically try to make sense of everything that is there around you and see how they work and then make them work for you. That was classical physics, which worked for centuries brilliantly. However, when mankind started discovering the outer space, classical physics would just not be able to explain the phenomena. Likewise, when you go to subatomic particles, classical physics would not do. Or if objects are moving very rapidly, classical physics fails to explain the phenomena. So a new field of physics was born called quantum physics, which is actually really the foundational aspect of everything that we do today, whether it is launching rockets into space or whether you are splitting atoms or doing whatever else we are doing, scientific advances. So in exactly the same way, when I look at the field of I am seeing that marketing has begun to fail.
So, Raja, I must say, when I picked up the copy of the book, the first thing that I was struck by was the title, Quantum Marketing, which implies by definition that everything that preceded it is now merely classical marketing. Can you provide your background insight as to why this title, please?
Absolutely. Rakesh, I have been in the field of marketing for 37 years now, both marketing and managing businesses. And over the years, I started seeing how marketing was evolving. And it has actually come to a stage where it is at the inflection point, which is going to be rather profound. Just to draw the analogy with the world of physics. Now, physics is the science with which we try to understand everything that's happening around us in the physical world, how they work, and make them work for us. It worked brilliantly for centuries, literally. Classical physics, for centuries, it worked very well. However, when mankind started figuring out things, able to look into the outer space, they found out that classical physics just doesn't explain anything out there. Or when you go to the other extreme, which is look inside the atoms, the small minuscule spaces that are there, classical physics doesn't explain. Or when objects travel extremely fast, approaching that of light, the speed of light, again, classical physics fails. So a new field of physics was born called quantum physics to explain those that classical physics could not. Now, when I look at marketing, we are exactly at that same point of inflection where there is so much of technological change that's happening There are dozens of new technologies that are coming at us like a tsunami, be it artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, autonomous cars, Internet of Things, wearables, you name it. There are dozens of these. Each one of them profoundly impacts the world of consumers and the world of marketing. Classical marketing will just not work in that new paradigm. And therefore, I said, like in physics, we have to come up with a new or a reimagined form of marketing, a new approach, a new framework, and hence they call it quantum marketing. And so that's the title.
Thank you. The revolution has begun. Raman,
I was intrigued, Rakesh, as you were by the quantum marketing title. I was intrigued by the fifth paradigm. Yeah. So I was curious how you came to focus on that, Raja.
Absolutely. Happy to share that. And I will try to mention it in a layperson's terms. So I'll oversimplify it just to make sure that this doesn't become technical and people who are not in marketing or business shouldn't be really, thinking it's all mumbo jumbo. So let me simplify it. If you look at marketing as a field, it's nothing new. In fact, when people discovered the ruins of Pompeii, they found out that there were advertisements in those ruins. Political candidates were advertising on the houses of rich people, saying that this candidate is going to do very good stuff for you, for the community, and so on and so forth. Or if you go even before that, when you look at the ruins, when you look at the Song dynasty, for example, in China, you had at that time advertisements appearing saying for needles, sewing needles. It says, our sewing needles are made out of the finest steel, so your product will be fantastic, whatever you are stitching or sewing. So it's a very old field, come to think of it, but it was evolving pretty rapidly over the years. And what I call as the first paradigm was all focused on the product. So if I'm marketing a product, I need to just tell the consumer, this is the best product. Whether it is real or exaggerated, you say, mine is the best product, mine is the best product, and tempt the consumers and influence them to buy your product. That was basically paradigm one. And therefore, what happened is businesses were constantly trying to improve the quality of their products. So they say, for example, cars, my car actually runs from 0 to 60 acceleration in 5 seconds. Somebody else comes and says 4 seconds. So it's really a race on product development and product enhancement and movement. However, marketers have hit upon psychology, sociology, and anthropology. They said, look, man, I don't even have to talk about product because my product somebody else can match or better. But if I give an emotional package to the whole thing, it's very difficult to replicate because once you are in somebody's heart through emotions, there is no rational way of moving them out and displacing them and occupying that space. So that was paradigm two. It was all emotional marketing. And emotional marketing became so phenomenally popular that people even started to completely ignore the product. So you don't even have to talk about the product, its qualities or performance. You simply talk about emotions. Classical example of this is Mastercard, right? Hugely successful campaign called Priceless. So what do we do there? We show a father and a son going to a baseball match. So we say price of the tickets, some $10, soda, $5, autograph ball, $40. But time spent with your 10-year-old son, priceless. There are certain things that money cannot buy. That's what you need to focus on. They are priceless. For everything else, there is Mastercard. So the key thing is you're not talking how great Mastercard is. You're not talking about what's the security or the credit limit or the rewards, nothing. You're focusing completely on the emotion between a father and a son. And it became an iconic campaign which is running to date, even after 20 years. Coca-Cola says, open a bottle of happiness. Now, what does it mean? Nothing, if you were to really rationally look at it. But emotionally, it means a lot. And it is the emotional campaigns which are working. That is paradigm two. Then marketers discovered something incredibly powerful called data and internet, two technologies. The data analytics, which have been really, till then, they used to be in the purvey of folks like the economists, the researchers, and the geeks, in a sense. But marketers suddenly discovered the power of data And they started doing something called data-driven marketing or precision marketing. So instead of spraying your communication and campaign across millions and billions of people, you can be razor sharp. It's like a laser missile. You say, this is the person who is most likely to buy my product and is most relevant for my communication, and therefore I go to this person. And that was enabled by internet. So that was the birth of a new field of marketing called digital marketing and data-driven marketing. So this is paradigm shift. Then came, in 2007, the launch of Facebook. And that was by when mobile devices had become totally ubiquitous and they were all connected. So even the poorest of the poor people have a mobile phone. So which means now you as a marketer have access to the consumer 24/7. And unlike in the past where you had to wait for them to come in front of your television or to switch on their radio, now you're always there with them. I keep joking that the mobile devices have become like an extension of the human body. That's the last thing you see when you are sleeping or you're about to go to bed. And it's the first thing you look at when you're waking up. It's become an extension literally of a human body. And in that kind of a scenario, it's an incredibly powerful medium to reach consumers in an appropriate way. Of course, you can annoy the hell out of the consumers and they will reject you. But the fact is you have the opportunity and it changes the total dynamic on the one hand. And also social media, where people talk about brands, people talk about each other, and they actually make or break brands in a matter of a few tweets or a few comments. It's incredible, right? For example, there was one of the celebrities who has gone ahead and said, who does even look at Snapchat these days? That one single tweet had shaved off $1 billion+ of the market cap of that company in a matter of hours. Right, so that's the power of social media. So marketers had come up with a new field, and this is called social marketing or influencer marketing and mobile marketing. So this is paradigm 4. Now we are at the verge of an unprecedented level of disruption in marketing. So like I said, artificial intelligence is changing everything. You've got augmented reality, virtual reality, where you can show things at such a level of depth and immersion that is not possible hitherto. Or you have got things like Internet of Things, like you can start talking to your refrigerator, your dishwasher, and purchase decisions happen from these devices, even without your involvement. They do auto. Everything is done. So what happens is some of these machines will take over your purchase decisions. So marketers have to now start talking to machines and convince the machines that your product is better and they have to really go and buy your product. So your machine will decide for you. For example, if you look at Alexa, which is a smart speaker that you have got, you say, hey, Alexa, I want to buy some soap. Alexa will tell me what soap is good in its search. Typically, 70% of the people accept the recommendation of Alexa upfront. They don't even wait for other options. So what happens now? Alexa becomes the new decision maker in the purchase decision of consumers. Now, I, as a marketer, then need to know, how am I going to influence Alexa so that it doesn't exclude me, or at least it includes me, if not recommends me at the top? So Amazon might be the new boss in terms of who purchases what, even further than what they are. So in that kind of a scenario, it's going to be totally different. And this is, I'm talking about just one technology. There are dozens of technologies coming, and each one of them is going to totally put marketing on its head. This new paradigm is what I'm calling as the 5th paradigm. And this is where, to tackle that 5th paradigm, you need, as a marketer, as a business person, a very different approach. You have to revisit every single existing phenomena that you have practiced and accepted as the truth over the years and the decades. Now will be put on its head, and you have to reimagine marketing, and that's quantum marketing.
Oh, that's fascinating. But to be able to look at it in historical perspective and to be able to frame it in this way, I think this really simplifies things for people, especially people like me who haven't been in marketing for some time. So I thank you for that. Rakesh, I don't know whether you find this to be a novel way of looking at it.
Well, it's certainly been a remarkable book to read. That marketing started from the Sung dynasty, and here we are in the 5th paradigm. Raja, obviously, as one evolves, one also divests. And we see brands, most notably a global iconic brand like Mastercard, saying, look, what was sacred at one time, which is the name. Oh, we don't even need the name. We're just going to go with that recognition of the logo, the yantra, in a sense. The logo is the yantra, to use an Indian term. And then you guys, I read in the book, went beyond that. You went to the mantra. Do you want to share that story? I found that fascinating.
I wish I had spoken with you before I wrote the book, because I would have borrowed this, framing of yantra and mantra, so which I'm going to shamelessly steal from you with your permission and then use it. You have absolutely captured it brilliantly, Rakesh. Mantra is all about sound, right? And there is a profound impact that sound creates in people's minds and hearts when they are said in a particular sequence, with a tone, with a rhythm, with a modulation, intonation, etc., etc. Now, making it simplified, basically, music has always been appealing to people across cultures, across continents, across generations. It might be different types of music, right? Now, I remember as I was growing up in India, we only used to have a radio. We didn't even have a television in those days at our home. On radio, you keep listening to some film songs, and you used to get advertisements. And the ones which I remember till date are those which are a jingle. So jingle is nothing but giving an identity to a brand in a sound form. It might be interesting, it might be not interesting, but you cannot ignore it. Now, what's happening, I was giving you the example of Alexa, right? Alexa is a medium which is not having any visual real estate. You talk to Alexa, Alexa responds back in voice, and the whole transaction is done, all the way from discovering something to purchasing something. Everything happens in the medium of sound or voice. So we said, though we have got a brilliant logo, which we call it the symbol brand, there are two circles, the red and yellow circles, which has been around for decades now, and one of the top 10 brands in the world today. It will be completely useless in this sound-only environment. And when you're talking in future of Internet of Things and wearables, like your refrigerator, your autonomous car, the driving, or self-driving cars, or your what would be the connected vehicles, the connected appliances that you have got, they are all going to be making some sound in a contextually appropriate way. And we said, if we can get our brand there, again, in an appropriate way, in a non-annoying fashion, it'll be fantastic. So I said, let's try and look at what we can do. Surprisingly, no other brand has done stuff that they have done, for example, in the visual brand in the context of sonic brand. There was no playbook available. So at Mastercard, we started creating our own playbook. So we have started coming up with a complete architecture. So we started first with a 30-second melody. A melody that is pleasant, otherwise people will throw up. A melody that is memorable, so that it is connected to your brand. A melody that is hummable, which means those that you can hum, they will stick in your head deeper. And four, we said it has to be extremely universal, which means whether I play the song or the melody, the 30 seconds, in India or in China or in Brazil or in Germany, it has to sound very, very native to those contexts. And it has to be versatile, which means if I play that melody in a football match or a cricket match, which is very noisy and energetic, or I play it in a ballet, which is at the other extreme, it's a soft and it's very different, it has to still be equally native. Excuse me. In that kind of a situation, we said we need to create. And guess what? It took us 2 years to come up with a melody like this. I worked with some of the top artists in the world, top composers, studios, record labels, musicologists, because it has to be original. We had to make sure everything it was done. And finally, guess what? It was created in India by an Indian team. Now that has become the global, what you call melody for Mastercard. So that's something which I feel very proud. I must say, I was not at all biased, in spite of the fact that I was an Indian. I'm an Indian. I looked at everything extremely in an unbiased way and in a completely scientific fashion. And the melody that was created out of India actually came up competing against other international stalwarts right at the top. So we adopted that melody. Now this melody goes into all our ads as the background. It goes as ringtones for our phones. It goes as music on hold for your, what you call Mastercard and so on. Then we have come up with a subset of that melody, which is 3 seconds. This melody, the 3 seconds one, it ends everything that we do. It's like a sonic signature. When our ad ends, it comes at the end. When our presentations end, it comes at the end, and so on. And finally, we have got 1.3 seconds subset, further subset of these 3 seconds, which we call it as the sonic acceptance sound. Each time you use your Mastercard, after the transaction has been successfully completed, you're looking for some confirmation. A sound will come, which is the Mastercard sound. So we started, these are 3 layers. We have actually got 10 layers in total. We have revealed 3 so far. And we are also releasing our first music album produced by the same person who produces music for Lady Gaga, for Miley Cyrus, and for Mary J. Blige. It's that level. So this has been leading our effort, and we're going to release our music album with a subtle infusion of the Mastercard melody into every song, but not sounding like a corporate anthem. Otherwise, people will hate it. But very different. And so our album is coming in the first quarter of 2021. So all this has already started making a dramatic difference. And today, at 54 million outlets around the world, at shops around the world, we have got the Mastercard Sonic already doing. And we have been rated at the beginning of this year as the best Sonic brand in the world, coming from behind and beating out guys who have been there around for decades. Like, you got McDonald's, you got NBC, you got British Airways, Intel. So all these, we left them behind and we just raced past them. So I feel very good about it. And this is truly made in India.
That is a remarkable case history, which illustrates what you mean with quantum marketing and fifth paradigm. I just want to share something that you might find interesting. I had been doing some work with a head of trauma surgery at a leading hospital. And Raja, they have these tests when somebody is in an accident and is severely injured and their brain suffers severe injury. There's a very well-defined protocol where they start off by asking the individual, do you know your name? Do you know the day? Do you know the date? And they go through a series of tests. Do you know where you are? Which city? If that fails, then they bring in the family members. Do you recognize your wife, your husband? So they have a very well graded protocol, and Raman may actually be aware of it. So here's the fascinating thing. The last test, if all fails, so when everything fails, then what the doctors do is they play the music that the family members have identified as the patient's favorite music. And this ties in with the Indian cultural theory of VAC being sonic consciousness, that is the starting point of your identity. So what, Raja, you have so brilliantly done at Mastercard is you've gone beyond product, you've gone beyond emotion in this world of quantum marketing. You've embedded that brand experience at the very fundamental atoms of human identity. This is just such an incredible case story. But Raman, I'm curious, and maybe Raman, you can talk to Raja about the toothbrush. A toothbrush is not a toothbrush in the world of quantum marketing and the fifth paradigm.
Raja, the world that you have envisioned, with a toothbrush that tells you where you have plaque and where you are overbrushing, or a refrigerator that will do automatic ordering of some of the things that you need, or Alexa might do that. or even a commode that does online testing, stool testing and urine testing, so you can be ahead of the game in terms of diagnosing, what your issues are. Automated driving. I mean, this is a fascinating world that you envision. And maybe you can also talk a little bit about the time frame within which you see all of this happening. That would be interesting as well. But, for any of the ladies who are listening or the men who are listening who do the shopping and so on, I mean, this is fascinating.
So, actually, what I'm talking about is all these changes are already beginning to happen. So the future that I'm talking about is not like 10, 15 years ahead. It's already happening, beginning to happen. And I think in 3 to 5 years, we'll be right in the thick of it. So let me just explain, right? So what happens? You wake up early in the morning. Typically, you have an alarm. Now, there are sleep monitoring devices which monitor you exactly to, like, for example, I'm wearing something called the Amazon Halo Band, or there's Fitbit, and there are a whole bunch of, even Apple Watch. So this Amazon Halo Band knows exactly what time I have woken up. Let's start with that. It's not the only one. Now there are already connected beds, which also analyzes how I slept, because the sleep quality is determining what's going to be the quality of your day and the quality of your health in general. So there are multiple devices which you know when you have woken up. If you have set an alarm, your iPhone also knows. So and they cross-tabulate against each other somewhere in the cloud. So they know what time you woke up. The moment you wake up, your coffee maker will immediately know that you have woken up. So by the time that you go to the coffee machine after brushing your teeth, you need to have your coffee ready. The coffee machines today are actually capable of doing it today, right? They're called smart coffee makers. And they know exactly what percentage of what has to be chicory and this one, etc., everything, how you brew it and what strength and so on. You go to the bathroom, you start brushing your teeth. Procter & Gamble has already got a product. When you're brushing, it's a connected toothbrush, which knows exactly which parts of the teeth which teeth are you not brushing adequately, or if you're putting too much of pressure, it'll say you're putting too much of pressure, and you'll scrape the enamel away, etc. And it'll tell you how long have you done, and so on and so forth. It's a guided brushing experience. It sounds funny, but actually I like it, right? And once you have done that, you come over, pick up your coffee, you're there. Now, if you use the toilet in the meanwhile, Philips already has got a product, which is a connected commode, which can analyze your stools, which can analyze your urine, and it sends the data back to your doctor or to your healthcare provider or to the wellness center, call it whatever, along with your sleep data. So you have your cup of coffee. If it has dispensed 2 cups of coffee, it transmits that to your health app and says, today in the morning, Raja had 2 cups of coffee of this level. So this is the amount of caffeine which went, and so on and so forth. So every single aspect of the day when you're going through your newspaper, given that you have got devices, as you are getting ready, your Amazon Alexa or your Google Home, somebody is reading the news out to you, because your visual attention has to be on things. In the past, what used to happen, you would sit with the paper, which means you cannot do anything else other than drink your coffee. But today you can do something else. You can have your bath, you're shaving, you're doing, etc., and you're listening to the stuff while focusing on this activity. So multitasking is the name of the game. You do all that stuff, you're getting ready, you got wearable clothes. Today, clothes have wearable clothes, means the connected clothes. So they're called wearables. So there's circuitry in that which can adjust the temperature depending on what the outside weather is. And it can also give you the level of insulation based on what the outside weather is. And it can also track your pulse, your body metrics, you're sweating, you're not sweating, and everything it can track, again, report back. You come out, you wear your shoes, they will measure your weight, go back. Meaning what happens is the machines will take a lot of what you do with yourself to yourself. They do it for you. You're delegating those tasks. Or to some extent, maybe you're even abdicating those responsibilities to these devices to take care of you. You sit in the car, autonomous cars are just going to happen 3 to 5 years maximum. Already the first versions of autonomous cars I sat in, I saw them, they drive much better than I can. And I've been driving for God knows how long. So there is a little bit of fear that people will have initially, but it becomes the norm. When you are now in an autonomous car, you're able to actually watch TV programming. You can watch you can do your video conferencing because your visual attention is no longer required to be on the road. So in that kind of a scenario, your whole scenario keeps changing. Your whole lifestyle changes. Last one example I'll give you. When you get down in your car parking, now auto parking is a reality today. Cars park themselves. In fact, I have a car which today can park by itself. So it's not some future. I park the car, I get out. Or when I go and stand in front of my, within a certain distance, I beckon my car to come. The car will bring by itself in front of me. Now, Tesla has got that facility today. So it's not again some future. One point I will mention is when I get down from my car and I'm going towards my office, and if there is a billboard in front of me, the billboard knows my location and who I am, what is my background, what are the things that interest me. And so suddenly it might actually put up an ad saying that, Raja, do you want to grow hair back on your head? We see that you are bald. I'm just exaggerating. You don't want to be so intrusive. But the reality is it'll give me an ad that is relevant to me and that appeals to me. So the entire lifestyle of consumers is going to dramatically alter. And when this happens, as a marketer, you need to understand how to tap into that in a non-intrusive fashion. You have to protect the privacy of the consumers. You should not be an annoying pest who keeps intruding, right? And taking all this, you still have to succeed because you have got a business to do, which is you have to sell your brands that satisfy the needs of the consumers. So it's going to be a fascinating time that we are about to enter. And I feel very inspired at the possibilities that are in front of us.
Yeah, so, the reason I ask about the pace of change for what is clearly a fascinating world that is coming is whether it represents challenges for the marketer, because the pace of change may be quite different in US versus some other countries. And MasterCharge or even others are global marketeers. So I'm just wondering what kind of challenges is that going to represent?
Okay, so firstly, everything that we know in marketing, we have to forget and relearn. Like, I'll give you a simple example. Even today in management schools, when they teach marketing, they teach the theories and principles outlined by who I call as the father of marketing, Philip Kotler. Till date, he has done it decades back. We are learning those. We are studying advertising models which are decades old. For example, there is a model which says customer has to first be aware of a product. You have to create awareness. Then you have to generate an interest in the consumer's heart. Then you have to generate a desire. A desire is at a higher level of passion and movement than interest. And then finally, you should actually push the customer to go and take an action in terms of buying your product. And once they use the product, they're hopefully satisfied. So you reinforce post-purchase so that they feel good about the product, and then they rebuy your product. The cycle goes on like that. That's called the purchase funnel. Today, there is nothing like a purchase funnel. The purchase funnel has collapsed. Today, I might not know the product. I might not be aware of the product, but I discover it. And at the moment I discover, the decision has been made either by me or by machine or a combination, and I get the product. So if I had to follow the traditional model, I have to go through the whole funnel and say, am I running this campaign for awareness? Am I running this campaign for action? Is it a call to action or whatever else it is, etc.? You have to rethink the entire model. I'll give you another example. This is a little provocative, and I want it to be taken in the right context, right? I was looking at one of the articles in BBC, BBC.com. I fell off my chair when I saw it. It said that people in marriage, nearly 3 out of 4 people have admitted to cheating at some point or the other. 3 out of 4. I said, could it be true? Divorce rates that I saw are as high as 50%. Not necessarily all led because of cheating. It could be various reasons. But I'm just trying to see it. 50% divorce rates, 75% cheating rates. And I started looking at other studies. There is not a whole bunch because people are not going to come out and say, yes, I have cheated. Who will say that, right? So probably these figures are even understated. Then I said, oh my God, now let me look at it as a marketer. or even as a analyst. If people have made an explicit commitment to be married, either with mantras or with religious contracts, religious ceremonies or legal contracts, whatever else it is there, and they are aware of the consequences of philandering. They know that if they stray and they are caught, there could be reputational damage, there could be financial damage, there could be emotional damage. So many things can happen. So they are committing, and they know that there are consequences of not being loyal. Still, they are doing it. Which means probably marketers have to now ask the fundamental question. If people are not committed to their spouses and they're cheating on their spouses, are we as marketers stupid to expect people to be loyal to our brands? And we are spending hundreds of billions of dollars every year as an industry behind loyalty programs. So I'm saying loyalty, as we know, is dead. We have to reinvent loyalty programs in marketing completely. Right? Advertising, same thing. If you look at advertising, who will like listening to or seeing ads? Because ads are an interruption of your experience. Now, I go to YouTube, for example, and on YouTube, I am watching some Bollywood songs or Telugu songs, call it whatever, or some animal videos. Every 3 minutes, they would interrupt me with some stupid ad that I don't care about. And not only that, now YouTube has raised it to 2 ads. It says ad 1 of 2 and ad 2 of 2. Extremely annoying and so irritating that I, as a or I put something called ad blockers because the ads are there all over coming in. And these ad blockers will completely prevent ads showing up on my screen. And today there are already 600 million plus users who have put on an ad blocker. And the third one is I say, let me pay money. I'm so sick and tired of these ads and these interruptions. Let me pay money to have a clean, nice experience. So there's something called YouTube Red, which charges about $12 or something for ad-free experience, which means you are paying to keep the pests away. Now, what happens as marketers, then you have to think, am I stupid that I'm still holding on to the old model of advertising? When consumers are voting with their wallets, with the technology, they're taking actions, and they're annoyed. And I, as a consumer myself, am annoyed with my ads. As a marketer, when I put my marketing hat on, why do I want to keep on pushing the ads at you mindlessly? And spending, again, $2 trillion annually, all the companies put together, right? That's a level of advertising budget that we got. So I said, we need to reinvent. There is a different model that we have to get in. Because the need for a brand to reach the consumer, tell the story of the brand, doesn't go away. But how you do it has to be rethought. And that's exactly some of the solutions I offer in my book.
So, Raja, you quite responsibly shared some of the backlash, some of the concerns about data privacy. You and I both know about the GDPR legislation that was passed in the EEC, which has now been passed in California. I was watching a 60-minute program on one of the apps that right now may be banned in the US. I'd always thought that in the US it was a political issue, but after I saw that report, I became quite worried. There are clearly draconian steps. I think government of India is actually at the forefront. Now, again, there may be politics there, but one cannot deny that there is probably substance. So I want you to put the hat of the consumer. I want you to be a member of the audience who's thinking, okay, Raja has alerted me to the matrix marketing world that I'm already in. Safety first. How do I stay safe with my digital persona so that it serves me and not, as you said, with me serving it by abdicating? And in your book, you've given some examples that people are so unaware of their capitulation. So safety, what advice would you have for safety first in the fifth paradigm world?
So, Rakesh, I'll give you, two answers to this question. Firstly, if marketers are using and leveraging data, it is unfair for them to dump the responsibility on consumers. I think the privilege of being a marketer also should come with the responsibility to keep your consumers safe, not to intrude into their privacy, not to snoop at them. Everything has to be permission driven, number one. Now, for example, before I'm a marketer, I'm a normal human being. And do I want my data to be seen by a whole bunch of people? No. If I'm sharing my data, do I know what I'm sharing, with whom I'm sharing, what will happen to the data? I need to know all this. So I'm a major advocate and a supporter of GDPR, which you referenced to in the EU, the CCPA, which is the California Consumer Protection Act, which again, I'm completely supportive of. So in principle, a marketer has to do his or her first duty is to uphold the rights of the consumers, uphold the safety and privacy of the consumers. So whether it is how they put their technology stacks, how they seek permissions, how they actually stay away from any practice that violates any of the consumers, that's going to be very, very critical. And I have written about this in the book Quantum Marketing as one of the chapters, a full chapter essentially on the ethics and integrity and data security and stuff like that, right? So this is one. Now look at the consumer side. Consumers have to be extra vigilant. Now, they don't know who they are giving permission. So typically when you are trying to download an app, there are unfortunately reams and reams of fine print and terms and conditions, which they just cannot read. And in that, they're actually signing their lives away many times. They say, yeah, you can take my data. Yes, you can sell my data. Yes, you can do this, etc., etc. And if you don't accept those terms and conditions, they won't give you access to that app. So as a consumer, you have to be very prudent. Just because something appears to be free, don't download it. Nothing is free in this world. There's a consequence to everything, right? Somebody is buying your attention. Somebody is buying your data. Somebody is buying something else in exchange for that. They're giving you the access to your free app or the information or the videos that you're enjoying or whatever else it is there. So there is nothing free in the world. You have to realize that and be very prudent of what you want to actually take and what not to take, number one. Number two, I would also say that there is, I think, a movement that's starting around the world, literally, that consumers are being more and more becoming aware of it. Like, for example, if you look at some of the apps that you download, and it's not just the apps, right? It's beyond apps, but I'm just giving this because people are downloading apps like there is no tomorrow. If it is free, download. If it is free, download. Now, some of these apps actually do have even the user ID and password of your financial accounts. Right? And there are reports. Again, I quote exactly which, the references to this I have given in my book. Now, that's a scary kind of a thing. Why would somebody who is doing something else, nothing to do with my finance, should have my passwords and user ID? And even if they have a legitimacy to take it for some reason, even with my permission, are they keeping it safely? Every other day, you're looking at data breaches and data hacks. So it's going to be a very, very, very difficult situation. So one of the key things is they have to talk to the regulators. They have to vote with their voices very strongly. So consumer advocacy is going to be very critical. On the one hand, marketers have to realize that they are responsible, they're accountable. Their big budgets come with big responsibilities. Regulators have to actually do what is right, by the consumers, and consumers have to be smart about themselves. And then see, there are a lot of consumer reports, for example, that come out. The problem is you don't know which is fake and which is real. Right? And there is nothing which regulates anything today of consequence in terms of fake reports, fake reviews, fake everything that's happening. I think, coming back to my point, there is going to be a reinvention of the entire consumer landscape in this quantum marketing. I'll give you a simple thing. There are a bunch of about, now I think it's probably well over 100 companies which have come together and creating something called a digital ID. So the digital ID, it's what it does is I give permission to the digital ID. It's a consortium, not for profit, as an example. This is just one of the many developments that are happening as we speak. So I say, I'm Raja, this is where I'm working, this is my family, this is whatever. It's with my permission. I will give some data to it. And I say, okay, here is my data. I will give you permission to send me only these advertisements and only so many times, because I'm not an idiot. I don't have to see the same ad 100 times. Okay, and knowing every single time I open the same ad stares at me, I don't need that, right? So I need to have that. And I also say, a company like, for example, if I'm talking to my bank, the permission levels will be deeper. So you can share with the bank these few things. But if it is something like a Facebook doesn't need to know anything about me beyond just one simple thing, right? So I set the permission levels in a very user-friendly way. That's what they are trying to create. Once I do that, then what happens is marketers will only have access. Advertising platforms will have only access to data which is totally anonymized, and they don't know what is happening behind the scenes. But this consortium has to be really coming to a fruition to make something like this happen. So what happens is consumers can then be relatively safe and secure to say, okay, I have got my data, but the data has been totally anonymized. It's been totally, they call it, encrypted to high levels of, and it's all tokenized. So even if somebody cracks into the database, it's all mumbo jumbo, or they cannot connect the other dots. It's distributed databases. So one element of data is here, one element of data is there. So unless somebody hacks into every single one of these databases, pulls them together, finds out the original algorithms, and then connects them together, which is humongous. Can it happen still? It can always happen. But you have to introduce this kind of safety mechanisms. That's what is happening. But the good thing is right now, there is a strong momentum with the regulators stepping in, which I think is correct. But I would also say that marketers have to really take hold of this. They have to own the responsibility and deliver to that responsibility. And consumers and consumer advocacy groups have to be vigilant. Forget about even the data thing, even simple things like if you look at the label of something, and in the book I gave this example. One of my friends, I'm a vegan, and he is a vegan, and he's not a vegan, he's a vegetarian. And both of us are really freaks in terms of trying to find out what is really good and nutrition conscious and so on. So he was buying, one of these natural, yogurts. Okay. When he takes it, it says in that there are ingredients. I just looked at that ingredients. It has guar gum. And it's got some thickeners, some emulsifiers, some stuff. I said, he's trying to buy simple, plain, natural yogurt, which is what the title says, the label says. But what he's buying in it has got some ingredients which he doesn't want. Right? So the question is, how come that this is kind of thing, it's allowed in this century? Trust me, this is going to change very soon. In the next 3 to 5 years, it'll be very different.
So that connects up, because there's a flip side, regulators on one side, and it connects up to the issue of trust, because there's a flip side, which is the brand side. So, and that is something that you've highlighted. But one concept that really struck me that, I'm used to brand loyalty as a concept. And you put that on its head and said it has to be the other way around, which is loyalty to the consumer. That's what the consumer is looking for. And trust and loyalty are really two sides of the same coin. Maybe you could elaborate on how you arrived at that concept.
It's simple, right? In fact, I remember even now I see in some shops in India, they put a small poster behind where the shopkeeper is sitting. It says, customer is our king. Our customer is the king.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the king or the queen. But it is. Say that one is the boss. Customer is the boss. And I think that is true, because customers pay us our livelihoods. It is their consumption of our products, their shopping, that gives us the revenues as companies. And we live off of them, literally, in terms of they're giving us our daily bread, so to speak. So customers should be the king. But when you talk of loyalty, the question is, if customer is really the king, is the king loyal to his subjects, or are the subjects loyal to the king? Mm-hmm. You always talk about the subjects who are loyal to the king. If customer is the king and the brands are the subjects, should it not be that brands are loyal to the customer?
Yeah.
Right? And for example, I'll tell you simple things. Like I I'm on the road pre-COVID. And these days, I'm happily grounded at home and spending time with my family and my dogs. But during normal times, I travel about 200 days a year, constantly on the flights. So probably I'll be in the top 1% of the frequent flyers for any airline, literally, that I'd fly on. Interestingly, when I buy my ticket with my personal money, or I'm redeeming my miles and then going to India or coming back here or whatever it is, invariably I get the worst possible seat right next to the toilet. Because I'm not paying the top dollar. Either I'm redeeming my miles, which means they're not getting incremental revenue, or I'm buying the cheap one because I go to IAAC or whatever it is, and I compare the prices and I buy the lowest one, and they put me rightly back at some in front of the toilet. So I said, what idiots are these guys? Right? I'm one of their top 1%, definitely. Right? I make 1 million+ miles every single year. And these guys, they should be giving me the royal treatment. But they're transactional when it comes to dealing with me. When I buy a full fare ticket through my company, they give me a treatment. When I'm buying, so they don't even know who I am in totality, and they expect me to be loyal to them. Right? No, this is what I'm saying is brands have got it wrong. They expect consumers to be loyal to them. Why should consumers be loyal to them? Like I said, if they're not loyal to their spouses, for God's sake, they expect that you are loyal to the brands on the one hand. Second, as a consumer, I'll tell you, you as the brand, I have got a lot of options for every brand, thankfully. If you're not the right one, I'll go for this. If you're not the one, I'll go for this. So I got a choice in front of me. You have to earn my trust consistently. It's not one and done. You have to earn it every single time. I'll give you one example. During this pandemic, I'm doing a lot of talks and meetings through at my home through this iPad, and keeping it horizontal gives somebody is looking up at me, and I wanted to just have it straight. So I wanted to have a stand for my iPad. So I looked at one of the reputed online retailers, and I saw what the price of a stand for the iPad is, $61. That's okay, a little on the expensive side. I'll go ahead and buy it. So when I went to check out, it says shipping cost $211.
Whoa.
I said, shipping cost, if they're not shipping a sofa set to me, why should it cost $211? And during normal times, for any purchase beyond $25, I get it free shipping. But just because there is a demand, you gouge.
Oh.
It broke my trust in that single instance.
Yeah.
I said, you guys, you are trying to take advantage of me. You're charging me 3.5 times my item, the price of the item, through shipping. I'm not going to go. After that, I started doing comparative shopping. I said, how does this, and I suddenly realized I was being exploited all along. It's just I saw it only this time. And then what happens? Then I tell my friends, I tell my family, and I say, no, guys, beware of this. Now you have to do comparative shopping. You think that is a very reputed one, you'll get the best deal. No, that's not how it is. These guys are cheats. It breaks the trust. Now, will they ever be able to earn my trust? No. And like you're asking, trust is such a fundamental, important thing. And when consumers are vulnerable, don't try to exploit them. Okay? Because gone are the days where you think you're a big brand, you can take the consumer for granted, you can do anything with them or to them, and they don't have a choice to go elsewhere. Those days are gone. The world is thankfully very democratized. A small, tiny brand coming out of some small company in Silicon Valley or wherever it is can give a hard, tough competition to a big brand. And so I think consumers are now legitimately getting a lot of choice, which is fantastic. So brands have to be very, very conscious about that fact, not purely from a self-serving point of view. It's fascinating. Marketing is unfortunately perceived as some kind of a con game. Marketing is not a con game. It's not meant to be a con game. There are some bad characters or bad actors who have done bad things, which has got a bad name for the industry. Marketing is actually a profession wherein you're trying to genuinely understand the needs of the consumers and satisfy them phenomenally well, giving them a delightful experience. That's what marketing is. It's not about cheating. It's not about deceptive advertising. It's not about wrong labeling. That's not how it is. We have to take marketing back to what it has to be from these bad actors. It has to be legitimately and correctly, a transparent way of dealing with the consumers, right? And satisfy them. And your survival, you should realize the consumer is giving you your livelihood. Be loyal to them, earn their trust. And you can win by giving them such fantastic experience of products at the right value. You don't have to resort to any of these corner cutting practices. And I think gone are those days. And I can tell you, I now see some websites which are cropping up, and I'm delighted, which is that they'll actually tell you which company or which particular product is actually having a deceptive, either a label or a deceptive communication or whatever else it is there. And I think that activism is very, very healthy, as I see it.
Has the technology actually then helped shift power from the brands to the consumers?
No question about it. No question about it. Technology has really, whether it is a social digital platforms or even things like, artificial intelligence as a service or software as a service. There are so many things that are coming as a service that small players in the industries are able to effectively compete against the gigantic people. In the past, if you have to, for example, deploy some technology, you needed to invest a humongous amount of capital. If you're a small startup, where would you have that kind of a capital? But then now, with the entire paradigm where things are available as a service and you pay as you go based on your exact usage, life is very different. And that is really empowering the small companies to fight on equal footing with large companies and succeeding and beating them actually many times. And that democratizes the whole field on the one hand. And then the second thing is when consumers are seeing the choice, when consumers are seeing social media comments, they suddenly have a voice to express and they have an opportunity to learn, notwithstanding the fake news, notwithstanding the amount of misinformation, disinformation that is there, which is a risk which is always there in a big way. But the point is consumers at least have got an enablement which they never had in the past before. And that is going to be a good counterbalance to what I call the entire, I would say, the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. I remember Madonna had a very popular song that we live in a material world. But thanks to you, Raja, we know that we live in a marketing world. In fact, technically speaking and correctly speaking, we live in a quantum marketing world. And Raja, it's important for you to know that one of the reasons that we picked your book as part of the literary festival is we believe that your book is really a public service to the entire community. Mm-hmm. That every single individual, not just the professional marketer like you and I, but every single individual should read it. Mm-hmm. You may remember a book that Ralph Nader wrote, Unsafe at Any Speed. Well, folks, if you read this book, you'll realize how unsafe at whatever speed you may be operating at, you will be if you don't educate yourself to the quantum marketing world. As a smart consumer, you will benefit hugely. And that was the reason we selected your book. And your talk has just been amazing. So from my side, I'm going to save my questions and simply say to everybody, read the book because the answers are there. Raman, your thoughts?
I have two more questions, if I may.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah. So one is, that there are some listeners who went to business school when they were still emphasizing the paradigms 1, 2, 3. What guidance or advice do you have for them to come up to speed so that they can be effective in paradigm 5?
So I think you hit upon an extremely important point, Raman. So firstly, business people who have been educated a few, even 15 years back, they have a lot of catching up to do because so much has happened in the intervening period in the last 15 years, and so much more is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. if they don't upgrade their knowledge and come up the curve, they will get obsolete very quickly. They'll get left behind. So that is a big risk that is there ahead of them. And I have got actually a personal plan for myself, which I can share. And that's something which people can think about if it's appropriate for them or not. So number one, I have set aside 5 hours every single week for my education. I either have somebody call me in on a weekend or in the late night, early morning, whenever, and teach me a subject. So, for example, I reach out to a youngster who is fantastic at virtual reality. Now, he's a kid. He's the same age as my son. So I called him one day. He is actually, the son of a friend of mine. And I asked him, say, hey, will you teach me? He initially thought I was joking. I said, no, I'm serious. And he took it seriously. And then he's actually taken classes for me and educating me on that particular topic. And I do this, and I reach out to some professors, or I go to Coursera, those free courses which are there. I do that, and I watch some of the brilliant videos that are out there, educational videos. I spend 5 hours meticulously marked on my calendar to educate myself. Number one. Number two, I try to read quite a lot. On an average, I try to read about 50 books a year. And sometimes what I try to do is I ask people constantly, hey, what book are you reading? And see if it is something interesting, I will take up that topic. Like, for example, if you are looking at behavioral economics, let's say, as one of the topics, that I think business people should really understand behavioral economics to have the right, for example, pricing strategies or the promotion strategies. So there are fantastic books, whether it's by Dan Ariely as an example, and I buy those books and I read them, and so I find it very hugely beneficial. Number two. Number three, I have actually signed up for some book summary clubs. So they send us somebody, just quickly scan through it, because my time, I feel, is very precious to me, and I don't have a whole bunch of it. So I just go through book summary to get the highlights, and if it is interesting enough, then I buy that book and go in depth. So that helps me quite a lot. The fourth one I find is from time to time, I actually pay money to join some course at any college or university. And actually take time off from my regular routine and say, okay, here is a 1-week program on one particular topic. I go and I educate myself. So that's a fourth thing. The last thing is, I try to inculcate a habit of learning in my team. Part of it is my own teaching them. When you want to teach somebody else, you learn it better. Mm-hmm. That's how the psychology works. You retain it much better. And it always consistently works for me. So what I have done, like, for example, I started a book club. So I say, here is a book club. So I give a free book to all my team members every month. So the first, for example, this month we have given a book called the Persuasion Code. So the Persuasion Code, I gave audiobooks to all of them, access to it. So they listen to the book, and we have got a chat functionality. So we discuss about it. What do you think about it? Do we agree with the author? Is he right? Just because it is printed, it doesn't become ultimate truth. We challenge, we discuss, we see applicability in the context. There's an active dialogue. You're making people think. And I'm having the author of that book then come and do a global webcast for my team, so they can directly interact and find out what's in the mind of the author. So this actually enables my learning and my refining of my understanding, as much as my team is also learning and refining their understanding. So these are the 5 things I really do very religiously. And I tell you, the amount of learning I have done in the last 3 to 4 years is probably a lot more than I did in my MBA. It is so dramatically altering, and I find it very fascinating. And each one of these, and I can connect the links between how a particular thing is there in my context of business. What can you do with it? Like, for example, when I was creating this Sonic brand for Mastercard, I studied a lot of the effect of sound on neurology and on psychology. Because just imagine, if I'm making this sound of Mastercard every time somebody is making a transaction. Take a situation like that of a Walmart clerk. There are hundreds of people going past. And each time if the sound is being played all day long, will I, as the checkout clerk, go crazy? Will I get tired? Will I get sick and tired of that? I say, shut this damn thing off. How will it work, right? And I had to really learn what's the effect of sound? What is the effect of repetition of sound? What is the right tonality so that it doesn't get irritating and annoying? So it was fascinating. So this is how I try to look for new fields and connect them back to my business or to my practice of marketing. And it greatly helps. And I don't think it's just only for marketing, but I think across the board, learning, I think, should be a journey. In this day and age, as we are having this inflection happening, people should learn. It's such a great opportunity because most of the stuff that you can learn from is free. Thanks to the internet.
Thank you for that personal input and sharing of what you actually do, because I think that's the kind of guidance that will be excellent for young people in particular, but really it applies to all ages, including Rakesh, to you and to me. One final question for you, Raja. What is the sixth paradigm?
You'll laugh if I say this. I think the sixth paradigm is going to have a lot of spirituality in it. The fifth paradigm has got a lot of social good and social consciousness.
Yeah.
For me, the sixth paradigm is a spiritual awareness and a spiritual consciousness, which is different than social awareness and social consciousness. But we will get there.
So let me, just to that, I see your book is dedicated to your Swamiji. Can you just talk a little bit about how Swamiji's guidance has influenced your life and connects to your perspective?
Absolutely. Firstly, I feel very blessed. He is in his mid-80s, and he's a sannyas, i.e. he's an ascetic or a hermit, call it whichever. His worldly possessions are 2 orange-colored clothes. Both of them, he wears one around his waist, the other one is up there hanging, drying. That's all. And he lives in a temple, extraordinarily knowledgeable, and in all the Vedas, and and also from the Tamil side, there is Divya Prabandhams and things like that, which basically is the equivalent of Vedas in South India, very profound. So I go to him not with any expectation, and I just go to him and pay my respects, and he just sits with me, generally inquires how things are, and for everything he says, don't get carried away. That's number one. Okay, to be grounded, and don't be worried about anything. Whatever is to happen will happen. Just be a good person and just pray. And I think his guidance is much more spiritual than religious.
Okay.
Right. And he says you have to do your meditation every day, which I do. Absolutely. Every single day I meditate. And he has given me some mantras, and I chant those mantras. Again, coming back to the sound, I don't know how they work. But the thing is, it's a faith, and I chant the mantras that he has given and then do my prayers regularly. It grounds me, it calms me, and it makes me very hopeful and positive. And most importantly, I would say that he has been literally, whenever there is any big success or there is a setback, you don't get swayed one way or the other too much. You take it in your stride. And I think that's probably been one of the biggest things for me. And also to really make you more think outside of yourself. It's about me, my family, my car, my house, my possessions, my stuff, etc. To make you a little bit more outward or beyond you and for others, etc. Which is how he has been, and he sort of guides. And that's what he is, and I always go there to India to seek his blessings and come back. So it's been fantastic for me, and therefore I dedicated this book to him. It's ironical, somebody has commented, I'm a complete antithesis to a marketing person. So marketing, when you talk to a marketing person, you're supposed to have a certain level of glamour, glitz, and you're suave and savvy and stuff like that. Those are the kind of images that people conjure up when you think of a global marketer or a world marketer or whatever.
Yeah, you look pretty savvy, Raja.
I wish. No, but the reality is that I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke cigarettes, and I don't eat meat, and I don't party. If I'm going to a party, I'm a complete misfit there, and I'm sitting on the side and watching what others are doing, or strike up conversation with some poor soul out there and try to educate them or have a deep conversation. But on a serious note, basically, in spite of all that, or in spite of my strong Indian accent, or the fact that if you have to be really, if you're a finance person, you're evaluated a lot for your brains, and you can be succeeding anywhere in the world. Marketing is indeed a glamorous field. And so you got this South Indian guy coming in with a strong South Indian accent, and he is, with all his practices, being in marketing is not very easy. And I consider it's purely, on the one hand, the blessings of the elders and the gurus that gets you where you have. So it was quite a delight for me when I went and shared with my guru that I have been rated as the best marketer in the world, global marketer of the year by 2 different organizations over 2 different years, and all these recognitions, etc. I said, it's all your blessings. And I feel that, because otherwise I have no right to be where I am. Because there are so many people who can do these very same things I'm doing much better than I can. So it's a question of having the right opportunity, having the right blessings and support of the people. And I'm not saying it for political correctness or to be cute. I sincerely mean it from the bottom of my heart. And so I feel that way. And he just smiles, and then he says, don't get carried away.
Be grounded. Don't get
be grounded. Exactly. These things, they come and go, but you have to be really, know where you stand, because if people respect the seat that you are sitting in, but tomorrow, once you retire, once you move on, you don't have all that stuff. So don't have an inflated opinion about yourself, and that's very fine. That's true.
Well, look, you deserve to have a high opinion of yourself. We do, after reading the book. And this is really the first time I've met you and gotten to know you virtually. But your work speaks for itself. I think everybody will be well served to go immediately to Amazon and order the book before it runs out of stock. This has just been a remarkable 1 hour that we've spent together. Rakesh, thank you so much for your wisdom and input added to Raja's extensive knowledge and wisdom as expressed here. And Raja, thank you also for being so candid. Whether it is for emerging for MBAs and how you go about learning, or the spiritual guidance you've had, which will stand us all in good stead. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramanji, and thank you so much, Rakesh. Really, really appreciate the opportunity. And please stay safe and be well.
Yeah. Thank you both. Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you, Raja.
Thank you so much.
Raja, thank you for a fun hour. Also for your curiosity and ability to simplify the concepts of marketing and the 5th paradigm. You've certainly done what you say CMOs should do. You've inspired your listeners to create magic for their companies. We could have looked ahead at the tectonic changes that are coming with anxiety, but instead, you have replaced that with excitement for what is up ahead. And I cannot wait to reread your book after this conversation. And thank you also for sharing those 5 items, 5 steps that you follow for weekly learning as part of your life, and also for sharing the advice of your guru, which I think is tremendous. Stay grounded and keep in touch with your humanity and spirituality. So thank you, Raja, for this wonderful time we could spend together.
Hello, I'm Neeli Lakhani, IAAC Literary Festival Director. I want to thank you for joining our award-winning authors and their wonder stories. IAAC is a 501c nonprofit. Programs like the one you just watched happen because of contributions from generous folks like you. Please donate to the IAAC so that we can support our artists and sustain our cultural programs. It is simple to donate by visiting the IAAC website at iaac.us. Learn about the insider benefits that membership gives you. On behalf of the entire IAAC board, stay safe and see you at our next event. Thank you.